here with Students for Life of America. We are outside the University of Pittsburgh today, rallying in protest against the very unethical research that has been conducted here over a number of years. But most recently, there have been some discoveries made by the Center for Medical Progress on experiments using the tissue from aborted babies. So using fetal tissue for experiments, scalping aborted fetal, scalping them and stitching them onto lab rats. It's truly gruesome what has been uncovered. So we've got a rally going on behind me. There's going to be a number of speakers. We have some of our students from the Students for Life group here at Pitt. We do have students in the graduate and research program here at Pitt out protesting today. So come on with me and we're going to come see the rally.
Got quite a few people. You can check out an article on this on studentsforlife.org. Let's go see the speaker.
Horrific, unethical fetal experimentation at this university. It is students, it is faculty, it is researchers coming from all over the world to abuse the corpses of these innocent human beings. We have had enough. We are demanding that the University of Pittsburgh, Chancellor Pat Gallagher, and the PA State House and Legislature stops this. At the core, medical ethics should involve this basic idea to do no harm. Chancellor Gallagher, University of Pittsburgh, every researcher in there, this is harm. Repeat after me. Do no harm. Do no harm. Do no harm. Do no harm. Thank you so much. Thank you. My name is Herb Garrity. I am the Executive Director of Rehumanize International. We are a local pro-life organization. While we're based in Pittsburgh, we're national and we're international. And we exist to promote human dignity across the board to ensure that every single human life is respected and protected. We are here today with so many local organizers and activists, as well as state and national representatives, to help stand up to this grave injustice against the preborn members of the Pittsburgh community. First up, we have a bunch of speakers for you today. First, I want to call up Elena. Elena is a current University of Pittsburgh grad student. She also is the former president of Choose Life at Pitt, the pro-life student group that I also was president of back in the day. And so right now, I am so happy that we have current Pitt students, we have alumni, we have the entire community coming to stop this injustice. Elena, please come up and say some words.
You're welcome.
Technical difficulties. Firstly, thank you all for being here today. I have some thoughts prepared. So, here at the University of Pittsburgh, we have the power and resources to use medicine and science to help people in wonderful ways. And Pitt does this often. However, medicine should never come at the cost of the most vulnerable, particularly the unborn. With rapid advances in the capabilities of medicine and science, we have forgotten to ask ourselves not only what can we do, but more importantly, what ought we to do? And this distinction is critical. We must be sure to ask ourselves not only what is possible, but first and foremost, what is right and ethical. The use of fetal tissues and embryonic cells is unethical and wrong. This research destroys human life and violates human rights. Furthermore, with other recent advances in science, the use of these tissues and cells is unnecessary and largely ineffective. We must make a stand to protect human life in all its forms and at all its stages. As a Pitt alumna and current graduate student here, I'm horrified by this research and the university's connection with the leading abortion provider, Planned Parenthood. Sadly, This type of research and these relationships are common throughout the scientific world and are so interconnected and permeating that they are sometimes can even be promoted unintentionally. I myself have experienced this firsthand. I stand here today not to point fingers and condemn individuals, but to condemn these research practices. While the truth is clear, the science and corresponding documentation can be messy and unclear. Often, it is unknown for researchers where their tissues come from. I believe if many of these researchers knew the facts, they too would be horrified as we are by the reality of these barbaric practices. So I do not come today to condemn individuals. However, I do condemn these research practices that capitalize on the killing of unborn children, and I condemn relationships with the leading profiteer of death, Planned Parenthood. This must end. As scientists and researchers and as human beings, we are better than this. Science ought to be better than this. We at the University of Pittsburgh are better than this. Medicine is meant to be life-giving and not life-taking. Human life is the sacred gift meant to be protected at all its stages, from fertilization and conception to natural death. True medicine and good science are pro-life.
Do no harm! Do no harm! Do no harm! Do no harm! Next up, we are going to hear from my friend Michelle Hendrickson from Students for Life of America.
Well, thank you, Herb, and thank you all. I love seeing you here, but I am just so disheartened that we have to be meeting for a reason like this. I am so proud of our students. Let's hear it for Students for Life of America and all of our awesome student leaders. I'm just so proud of them. So, good morning. As the Eastern Regional Director with Students for Life of America, representing over 1,200 campus groups across the country, 80 of those right here in Pennsylvania, we are all just horrified at what has been taking place at the University of Pittsburgh. I myself, I walked this campus myself when I was young. My grandfather actually graduated from the University of Pittsburgh with his master's degree in social work. He would take me to Pitt Panthers games, and I saw how much he loved this school. And that's how it should be when we think about our college campuses. But instead, the University of Pittsburgh has created a new low in the ethical and moral standards for their students. They've corrupted any credibility that their research department may have had, and they have formed a dark shadow on this Pitt community. The Center for Medical Progress has exposed some of the most barbaric experiments carried out on human persons right here in these walls, including, I hate that I even have to say this list, but I'm going to say it, including the scalping of 5-month-old aborted fetuses, stitching those scalps onto lab rats, exporting fetal kidneys across the country, and killing infants delivered alive for liver harvesting. Students at this university are rightfully outraged that their tuition dollars support an institution capable of such unethical research. Taxpayers, all of us as taxpayers should be outraged that the millions of dollars are poured into research that isn't even the most effective option we have today. Using aborted fetal tissue has been proven time and again unnecessary. Credible and clearly more progressive researchers than those here at Pitt have developed ethical methods that yield better results, and we've known this for decades. The methods used at University of Pittsburgh are cruel, grotesque, and completely halt any hope of ethical scientific advancement. This has been happening for far too long. This has been happening and the greater community just unaware for far too long. There is only one way, ladies and gentlemen, one way that we will break through the millions of dollars of government corruption, and it's through you. It is through all of you speaking up, making calls. I want you to pick up the phone. I want you to write that email, and I want you to never stop. Call the dean of the school. Call the department heads.
call the university president, call our lawmakers to write good policies that make sure this can never happen at any campus in Pennsylvania, that this can never happen in any campus in our country. Tell your lawmakers that elections have consequences and you're ready to vote pro-life.
Here, here.
I want you to go to studentsforlife.org. There's going to be a red bar at the top, and that's where you can take action now. And I believe that you will. I trust that you will not stay silent. Can you do that for me?
Thank you, Michelle. Next, I want to invite up one of our local Pittsburgh leaders, Meredith Ferrente. She has started and has led a project called the McGee Project to bring attention to some of the horrors that take place right here in Oakland at McGee's Women's Hospital. Thank you, Meredith, for being here.
God bless you all. I believe you're an answer to prayer today. So I'm here to represent the McGee Project. We have been working to end abortion at McGee and Pitt for over 5 years now. What people are not aware of is there are 10,000 babies born every year at McGee. 10,000 babies. They have a world-class neonatal intensive care unit at McGee. They do marvelous things for people facing cancer diagnoses and help so many people with so many things, but they have a dark side. And that dark side is that they do 500 to 700 abortions every year at McGee. And now we know that they harvest those babies and use them for fetal experimentation. One thing I heard in the hearing this week in Harrisburg was about consent. Oh, all these women that gave up their babies, they signed consent forms. Those babies didn't sign consent forms. And those moms had no idea that their babies were going to be scalped and have their scalps attached to rats and mice. So your tax dollars are going to do this kind of thing. We know there's this connection between faculty at Pitt, UPMC McGee, and Planned Parenthood. All the same people involved. Beatrice Chen, Sharon Achilles, Heather Homan. Ask your doctor, ladies, if you go to a gynecologist, ask them if they do abortions or if they refer for abortions, because that's where we need to stop. When we find out who these people are, number one, we can be praying for them, and that's what the McGee Project does. I invite you to sign up to pray with us. We pray like the 40 Days for Life. We go to McGee, we pray from home, and then we've been gathering one Sunday a month to have church and have a prayer walk around McGee. We invite you to that. It's the fourth Sunday of the month at 4 o'clock. And then we've started something called the Safe Space Initiative, and that is asking churches to make their members more aware of what will be done for a young woman if she finds herself pregnant unexpectedly, how we can support them, how we can love them, so that we can do these positive things to end abortion in our city. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Meredith, and thank you for all your work. Something Michelle said earlier that I just want to repeat. This research is not only cruel, but it is unnecessary. We can do ethical research. We are not anti-science, just as we are not anti-woman. We are pro-science, we are pro-woman, and we are pro-life. We can get the results that we want, that we deserve. With ethics, we can demand ethical research now. 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 Thank you so much. Next up, I want to invite Dan Bartkaliak from the Pennsylvania Family Institute. They have been leading the charge on this issue.
Is anyone upset with Pitt right now? Yes! I'm furious. So I came up from Harrisburg this morning, and this week, Meredith mentioned it, there was a hearing, state government committee hearing, on fetal experimentation, so experimenting with aborted babies. Pitt, as we've mentioned, scalping aborted babies. and grafting them onto lab rats. It's disgusting. Pitt's been doing it for decades. So we had this hearing in Harrisburg. So you'd think the main purpose of this hearing is experimenting on aborted babies. Who does Pitt send to testify? They were invited to testify. Who do you think they sent? Somebody involved with experimenting on aborted babies? No. They sent a new guy. He's been here all of 5 months, and he has no whatsoever involvement with experimenting on aborted babies. He was by video. It was in his office. He didn't have to travel to Harrisburg. Yet Pitt can't supply somebody to testify about the main part of this hearing, experimenting with aborted babies. It's pretty sad. And then we get into the hearing. The gentleman that was the representative from Pitt didn't know much about the study about scalping those babies. He did mention one statement, and it was completely false. Then in questioning, all these reps had a lot of questions about what's going on here. His response is, I don't know that. I can't answer that. Oh, you're going to have to talk to somebody else. Oh, you can submit a question if you'd like. It was baffling. It was just absolutely absurd. It shows that Pitt is hiding things. Pitt's hiding what they're doing here. And it's all the more reason why we need people like you guys. This is a great crowd, and thank you for coming out. We need to keep this going. We need to find these answers. Should we know in detail how they obtain aborted babies? Should we know in detail how they are experimenting with aborted babies? Should we know how they obtain consent from McGee Hospital, these mothers, to experiment on aborted babies? Should we be investigating Pitt on their experimentations? It's absurd. They need to be investigated, exposed. This has to end here at Pitt. So one last thing, kind of looking at, they obviously have a great relationship with Planned Parenthood. So they have a care site. They consider them a contracted care site here at Pitt. They perform 15,000 abortions every year in our state. That's not care. That's killing these babies through abortions, thousands every year. And they, Pitt, use these employees for Planned Parenthood, their staff, Planned Parenthood, staff here at Pitt, to take part in some of these inhumane, unethical, taxpayer-funded experiments on babies that are aborted halfway through pregnancy. Babies should not be being aborted and experimented on, put on lab rats. I'll say it again, babies should not be being aborted and cut apart and put on lab rats. It's disgusting. It has to end. So thank you all for being here. Go to pittexposed.com. Is an open letter to Pitt to really just call out what is happening. We're making sure that lawmakers see that too, because we have to be vocal. This can't be the last of it. It can't be swept under the rug, hope that we forget about it. We have to keep vigilant. We have to stay aware of this issue and pressuring lawmakers, pressuring Pitt to end what is happening here. So thank you for being here. Truly thank you. And let's not make sure this isn't the last thing we do. So thank you.
Thank you. Something Dan just said that I want to repeat. These are babies halfway through pregnancy. That wasn't an exaggeration. This isn't some conspiracy theory that you might read online. This is publicly published. University of Pittsburgh, you can find it. Go on their website. They are harvesting organs, harvesting body parts, scalping children 18 to 24 weeks old. 24 weeks old. Sometimes, listen, I'm an anti-abortion activist. I am pro-life. I talk to people and they say to me, you know, these are just clumps of cells. It's just a bunch of tissue we're talking about. That's not what we're talking about. First of all, human life starts at conception. That is a biological, scientific fact. You don't need religion to back that up. You don't need anything. I myself am a pro-life atheist. I recognize the science. Human life starts at conception.
Tell Joe Biden.
I tell Joe Biden every day on Twitter. But these children, these are not the tiniest members of our human family. These are 24-week-old children. These are people. They are human beings. Science indicates that they are pain capable. They absolutely respond to stimuli, external stimuli. They have beating hearts. They have brains. They have organs. We know that because that's exactly what makes them valuable to the University of Pittsburgh researchers. They are human beings just like us, and they deserve rights just like us. Thank you. Next up, I want to bring up Pastor Chuck Jewell. Thank you for being here today.
Good morning. Good morning. Coming down here from Newcastle, Pennsylvania today, I was praying the whole time. Praying that rain would stop. And it stopped. How about it? I just wanted to share a couple of moments. I had no idea what to say. Kurt Weaver from the Pennsylvania Family Institute said, hey, could you share? You're the only pastor so far that's responded. Thankfully, there's some more here now. Okay? Thankfully, there's some more here now. And I'm excited. Maybe you've heard it said that people were made for a purpose. Maybe you've heard that. I believe that. I agree. People were made for a purpose. Please listen to some words that guide my thoughts and encourage me. I hope they encourage you too. It said, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. That means people have a purpose. We have a good purpose. We're here to do good things, right? What is happening here at the University of Pittsburgh, and I'm a Western PA kid. This is not good. In fact, can I call it what it is? It's evil. It's not good, it's evil. What's happening here? These people are not using the good that was built into them for good purposes. When this kind of thing happens to those that we are supposed to protect and provide for, we have to take action. What that action looks like, we got to figure that out step by step, day by day. Another verse says this, for you were created in Christ Jesus for good works which prepared beforehand. And then another one says, you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mom's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in the secret place. I submit to you today one other thing you've heard, and I just said it, you were created for a purpose. You were created on purpose. You were created on purpose, not just an accident. If anybody, even in the sound of my voice right now, has been told you were an accident, you are a cause of this, that, and I wish you were never been born, that's a lie from the pit of hell. And I'm here to tell you today, you were created on purpose. And these babies that are being experimented on were created on purpose. This is not what they deserve. We are not accidents, and we're not a mess. I said this statement a while ago and somebody said, wow, that's powerful. So I share it with you today. When we sacrifice babies on the altar of convenience or science, we lose our humanity. We give up who we are as human beings. Adults are to protect and nurture, not harm and kill. We have a value and we are here on purpose. We need to help those. Just like some other people have said here, I totally agree with them. We need to help those that are caught up in this lie, whether they're the women, whether they're the scientists, the people doing these horrible things. We need to pray for them and we need to hold them accountable at the same time. It's not an either or, it's a both and. I pray that their hearts and minds would be touched and changed. I pray that they'd have the courage to sit down with those of us that feel this way and have a conversation. We need to do all we can to stop this testing. This research, as you've heard, is not worth the gains. People are too valuable. And somebody alluded to this a minute ago. Just less than a year ago, I was at McGee Hospital with a friend of mine whose baby was born at 24 and a half weeks. And that hospital did everything they could do and spent time and resources to put that child into a healthy state. And guess what? That little boy is running around like a crazy man today. Just because his mom and dad wanted him, he was valuable in the scientist's eyes. And if mom would have said, no, he's not worth it, then he wouldn't have been valuable. I submit to you that is wrong. That boy was valuable no matter what. We're created on purpose. We got a purpose to fulfill. I'm excited that we're working together here today. So we are created on purpose. Take that with you. And these babies are created on purpose. And these scientists are too. Let's keep working together. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor. Next, I want to bring up Tim Wainwright from Catholic Social Action.
Thank you, Herb. Can you guys hear me okay? Yeah. All right, so this is sort of weird, right?
it's a little awkward. Like, protesting isn't normal. That's why we have some cameras here. We're a bunch of people standing outside with signs, screaming things. And I guarantee everyone walking past and everyone driving past is going to make a little glance and be like, oh, okay, some more weirdos doing something. And they would say that no matter what our sign said, or no matter what was happening. But that's totally twisted. That's totally upside down. Because the reason we're here, and let's just walk through step by step. All the previous speakers have alluded to this, but it's horrific, and we need to spell out in detail why we're here. Okay, so here's what happens. Under the money and the influence of the University of Pittsburgh and UPMC. A woman, mostly from marginalized communities, women of color, women of low means, are faced with the most difficult decision they'll ever make. And they make it 99% of the time under duress. And they're taken to a hospital, and they're made and pressured to immediately sign a consent form, along with they're doing all the other BS paperwork they have to do to go through the day of hell for them. And then, as soon as the abortion occurs, they take the fetus, put it on ice, and ship it to a lab. And there's often money involved. And then in the lab, some weirdo tenured professor makes his grad students, for the hope of getting a job someday, pull out the fetuses, take off clumps of cells that have the opportunity to grow hair, and graft them onto mice. I say that's weird. I say that's super weird. Okay, this is weird. Standing with a sign isn't weird. Doing that is weird. Why isn't every student of the University of Pittsburgh here? That's what I don't understand, right? And listen, if you saw a kid, right, pulling the tails off of mice or keeping them in tiny cages to cut them up, you'd take them to a psychiatrist and you'd call it a sociopath. But if you do it when you're a professor at Pitt, apparently you get $250,000 from the NIH to keep doing it. What the hell's up with that? That doesn't make any sense to me. Does it make sense to you? No. Does it make sense to you? No. Thank you. Now, the other thing I want to say here is, yeah, I'm here with a Catholic group, but we've got, this is not just a pro-life issue, this is about medical ethics. There are people who don't agree with us about abortion and all of the nuances of that, who are still here taking a stand because it's obviously messed up, and it's part of the long history of what Pitt has done under the rubric of science that the alumni community is not aware of, the Pittsburgh community is not aware of, and any human being of common sense would support if they looked it in the face. Look at all the stuff they've done with animal research, cutting up monkeys and putting stuff into the brains to, see if some neurons fire. All of the complaints they've had from PETA and the ongoing legal actions and issues for years about all of the stuff they do that's hidden from the public eye. Okay, this is just one more thing in the long list of things that the Chancellor and the Pitt community have got to answer for. Okay, they can't just hide under the name of science anymore because normal people are starting to look at it and see that this doesn't add up. Okay? And again, I just want to say that I'm here as part of the Catholic community, but as I look out, we have mostly women here. We've got representatives from the LGBT community. We've got atheists here. We've got folks from all walks of life. Pitt alumni, Pitt students, okay? This is common ground. This isn't just a religious issue. This isn't just an abortion issue. This is common sense, and it needs to stop. It needs to stop, okay? It's ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous, and it needs to stop. And we're not going away until we get some answers. We're not letting Chancellor McCarthy make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year presiding over his tidy community without giving some answers as to the dirty laundry that's going on in the basement. You got to speak up. So keep doing what you're doing. Thank you for being here. We don't care about the rain. We're going to keep going. We're going to keep going until we get some answers. Thanks everyone for taking the time. Thank you.
Ethical research now!
Ethical research now! Ethical research now! Ethical research now! Ethical research now! Ethical research now!
Next up, I want to invite my favorite person here today for holding the umbrella during this press conference, Greg Engelmeyer.
Thank you, Herb. Everybody can hear me okay, right? All right, good, good. So I'm a sidewalk advocate. I'm the director of Pittsburgh Sidewalk Advocates for Life. And so as an advocate, we spend many hours on the sidewalk in front of Planned Parenthood every week, actually 4 days a week, 40 hours a week now, 52 weeks a year, okay? And about a year and a half ago, I had the opportunity, I ran into a young couple. I'll call them John and Sarah. Beautiful young couple. They attended a local university. I mean, these kids, they were gorgeous. I mean, they could have been on the covers of GQ and Glamour magazine. And they were nice and polite, and they were driven, they had goals, but they were going to enter the doors of Planned Parenthood. Fortunately, it was cold out. I had coffee that day. I got them to come into my car. We talked for a good long while, you know, and then, you know, and I'm going to go on to the next couple. Then a few months later, I ran into another young couple. They were also an amazing young couple and beautiful. They were much younger though. They were 17 and 16 from a local high school here in Pittsburgh. They were actually, both of them were from immigrant families, but they were both well taken care of, responsible, hard-working parents, and they were afraid to talk to their parents. So I told both those couples at those various times about, you know, look, just think about this. You know, at 3 weeks, there's a little heartbeat beating inside you at 3 weeks. And at 2 months, just think, there's little fingers, there's little toes, a nose, the facial features are being formed right inside you. It's a little person. It's a little human life. And so, you know, and I explained that to them, and they listened, they nodded, and they smiled, and, you know, and then I even told them about what happens, unfortunately, to the women that walk out of Planned Parenthood. And I'll first of all say, anybody that I've ever seen walk into those doors, workers or patients, are never happy. They're always unhappy. They are in a bad place, and they come out in an even worse place. And what happens then is they go back home, and many of them become depressed. So depressed that they need psychological counseling. Some of them get so depressed they turn to alcohol and drugs. In fact, statistics show that a woman that has an abortion is 6 to 7 times more likely to commit suicide than a woman who has their child. Think about that. It's a life-changing event that never leaves them. It's a forever scar. I'm sad to report that both of those couples later they killed their child. They aborted their. And the young couple from the university told me in the car and he walked in the doors, and it's a sucker punch. It's the worst. It's the most devastating feeling I think you could ever have. Yeah. Well, you know, we try to give good training to sidewalk advocates, but we learn from our experiences, and we have had saves. But here, we gotta go backwards. If you bear with me, first of all, thank you for being here in this rain, this uncomfortable, cold, wet rain. But thank you for listening to me. I'm gonna go on for just a few more minutes. Coach told me to. Sorry, I can't talk for 2. But so we go back in history. We all can acknowledge that the Nazi experiments on the Jews in Auschwitz and Dachau and other concentration camps, they were inhumane, murder and torture on human beings, right? And did you know, I don't know, the Nazis actually conducted research on infectious diseases such as malaria, typhoid, tuberculosis, and others, right? Okay, but did you know that there was over 70 Nazi medical research programs that experiment on over 7,000 Jews, right? These programs basically was done in conjunction with German universities and the German government and then German medical research. So what do we have? What do we have today? We have the same unholy alliance. I actually call it an evil triumvirate. And we have, when you look, we have University of Pittsburgh, we have Planned Parenthood, and we have the National Health Institute financing it, and it's all about the money. The money goes round and round, and that's why they're doing it. So, you know, I've heard Herb say, but we talked about the science today. The science is, everybody's seen those little black signs, science is real, all that, right? But how about BLM, Black Lives Matter? I say babies' lives matter. And the science is real because at the moment of conception, science has proved that unique human DNA ever in the history of the world before and after is created at that moment. And then the gender is determined right thereafter. And in 3 days, did you know that there's facial features on a baby in 3 days? That's their facial features they will have when they're adults. So you can't tell me that is not a human life. So, you know, whoever thought that what happened in the 1940s could happen again, but it's happening today because I value every single Jewish life that was killed and tortured back then, but these are the same human lives that since Roe v. Wade, over 62 million babies have been killed in this, aborted, murdered in this country, 62 million plus. And then we encourage it around the world. We fund other countries around the world to kill their children. It's unbelievable. It's evil. So I just want to say we need to change our culture. We need to get the word out. We cannot be silent anymore. All of you here are committed. And that's why you're here, so thank you so much for that. But now, you know, and I'm guilty of this too. I live in a very liberal neighborhood in Mount Lebanon, and all those little black signs are up and down my street. And, you have to talk to your neighbors, your relatives, because too many people have their heads stuck in the sand. You got to pull it out of the sand, and we have to speak out because we can't put up with this anymore. We just can't do it. It's intolerable. This must end now. This must end now. This must end now. This must end now. Thank you all for being here. God bless, and God bless those little unborn children.
Thank you, Greg. Finally, I want to bring up Amy Murphy, founder of Rehumanize International. Rehumanize International is the group I now work for as executive director. We are a consistent life ethic organization, which means that we stand for human rights from conception till natural death.
Hi everyone. I gotta say, I'm not sure how many of you know me or recognize me from the Women Betrayed rallies back in 2016. I was the Pittsburgh coordinator for those rallies, and honestly, I didn't think that I was going to be back out here again protesting basically the same topic. 6 years ago, I remember very clearly when I saw the first undercover videos that unearthed the grotesque practice that Planned Parenthood has of killing prenatal children and then parting out their organs to medical research corporations. I spent that summer protesting the abortion clinic downtown when it seems that I should have marched 2 miles up Fifth Avenue with my megaphone. When I saw the evidence that the University of Pittsburgh has been participating in the same gruesome practice, my stomach turned and a mournful rage filled me. Because I went to college just down the road here at CMU. Many of my closest friends from undergrad were students here at Pitt, and some of my fondest memories with them happened here on this campus. Heck, my husband just graduated from Pitt's Law School just a couple of years ago. So to hear that the University of Pittsburgh is using the organs of babies killed by abortion, it tinged all of those memories to know that such horrific violence was quietly taking place in the building just blocks away. The people walking by or driving by might be saying to themselves, why do those crazy pro-lifers even care what happens to the fetal tissue after an abortion? Sarah Silverman even said back in 2015, abortion is still legal in the great US of A. It would be insane not to use fetal tissue for science and education in such cases. And I hate to do this because God wins law, but I'm not the first person who's going to bring it up, so. I asked myself, where have I heard this reasoning before? I recall this line from the Nuremberg trials, from the mouth of Nazi Dr. Julius Halliburton. Look now here, boys. If you were going to kill all these people, at least take the brains so that the material could be utilized. See, here's the thing about the practice that makes it so utterly unethical and dehumanizing. The fetal tissue isn't merely a clump of cells. Unless, of course, you're willing to admit that every human being is a clump of cells. Like, I'm just a big clump of cells, and you're a big clump of cells, and I'm sure there are some smaller clumps of cells here, right? See, we know from the scientific study of embryology and prenatal development that at the moment of sperm-egg fusion at fertilization, that a new human being's life has begun. From the 2016 edition of a widely used medical textbook, The Developing Human, Clinically Oriented Embryology. Human development begins at fertilization when a sperm fuses with an oocyte to form a single cell, the zygote. This highly specialized, totipotent cell marks the beginning of each of us as a unique individual. So that human being whose organs, whose skin and scalp and liver and brain and spleen tissue is being parted out for research to promote scientific advancement cannot ever consent to being killed. Children cannot consent to violence against them. They cannot consent to their organs being used for medical research. And let's get one thing straight. Abortion always intentionally kills a living, unique, irreplaceable human being. It's not okay to kill someone and then take their organs for medical research. So today I'm calling on the University of Pittsburgh to immediately end this grotesque practice. Please, all of you here, call Chancellor Gallagher today and demand that Pitt immediately cease this inhumane and dehumanizing practice. The phone number is in the event page, the Facebook event page. It's on the handouts that we've been giving out. If you need it, come find me. And I hope to continue to see you out here if we have future protests this summer, because we can't give up. The preborn children being killed here can't afford for us not to.
Thank you, Amy. Repeat after me. We are the pro-life generation.
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 I just want to thank you all so much again for coming out here in the rain. I want to do a special shout out to everyone listening on the live stream. Thank you to everyone live streaming, and thank you to everyone at home who has been engaged in this issue, whether you can make it out here today or not. For everyone at home and for everyone recording, I do just want to read out Chancellor Gallagher's office phone number so that you can, after this, go home, or if you're at home right now, call Chancellor Gallagher and demand that the University of Pittsburgh puts an end to the contracts that require the continued destruction, the active, continued destruction of human beings for medical research. That number is 412-624-4200. Call Chancellor Gallagher and demand an end to this unethical fetal experimentation. Ethical research now!
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 Thank you, everybody. I'm going to let you all go home now. But before that, can everyone just gather right here, the University Cathedral in the background, for a group picture. Everyone with signs, make your way to the front.
Make sure you go to studentsforlifeaction.org to take action.
Yep, there's a little red bar that comes down. Just click it.